Hey Nathan, we're going to take a look at your image and some of the problems that you're having with it. So I'm going to go ahead and insert the image for digitizing. And instead of inserting it as a scanned or simple artwork image, I'm going to insert it as a template. And the reason is that I can use some of the tools to automate some things, but I'm really going to have to take a look at what's going on with this. So let's go ahead and insert that. And we don't need to be quite that big. I'm going to put it at about 150 millimeters and drop that size down quite a bit. Now it's coming in faded. And this is one of the reasons that you're having some problems with, this image. You're talking about things blending in together up in here. Okay. And part of that is, you've got this section that's actually split in two, and then you have this piece here that's attached. And, even though right now my image is faded in the background, I can still use some of the tools and kind of resolve this issue very quickly. These are very pixeled and bad images, and you can see like the edges aren't real smooth. Maybe it was drawn that way. Here's going to be the same color, so it's going to be attached to this. This is actually split, so that's not really helping us much. And at this point, it's really time to look at using some of your manual punching tools. We can use some automation, but we can use manual punch as well. Now, what else we have to look at is kind of a reasonable stitching order here. You want to try to go from the center out as often as possible. So, I would like to start with this yellow section. So, what I'm going to do for this yellow section is I could use some automation tools, but it's a pretty simple shape and I need to make it a solid shape for a better result. So I'm going to come over to my create toolbar and I'm going to use this create a freehand area tool. And it's the, kind of odd shaped looking square here. And when I select that tool, what I get is this little box that says area, color, pre-close off. So we want it to be an area. I'm going to click on this and, I'll change the color to yellow. And, basically we'll leave it as is. Now this is just going to be a real quick tool. So what I'm going to do is come over to the corner of the star and left click. And I'm just going to come up, drag my line over here and left click on each of these points and, inner points here on this star and just shape this star. Now when I come down here, I can kind of go like this and then come down, but I'm really just tracing some things here, okay? When I get to up to here, you can see I started at this point up here, and since this is all left clicks and straight lines, I can just simply press enter and that closes off that star. Okay, now I'm going to press escape. Okay, that is my star shape. It's pretty good, and you can see it's in auto judge. So watch my mouse. I'm going to come down here and I'm going to click on that. I'm going to say I want it to be a complex fill. And then I'm going to change my direction. So I just move my mouse over this wand and I'm going to change that direction a little bit and hit generate. You can change that, additionally, if you want. What you're trying to do is not have too many of these double, lines here. I've got one here. And I'll just adjust a little bit at a time. I'm not going to worry about that too much because I have to carve some things out of this. Okay, so I've got that yellow section taken care of. Now I have this yellow section here, and I have some little circles, that go through the design. So I've gotten this big section taken care of for right now. And I'm going to right click off to the side so nothing's flashing. And then I'm going to come over to the magic wand here, and it's right above the go. So if I go to the magic wand and I come over here and I say, well, let's left click on this yellow section here, I'm going to run into a problem. See how it's selecting this star section here? You can see the blue flashing line. So if I'm going to press escape and we'll come up here and we'll see if that does any better. See where these flashing lines are? That's indicating what's selected. And here's this little tolerance box up here that opens up. So if I wanted to select more of the color, I can slide that slider over and you can see I've gotten it fairly smooth in here now. See, I just slid this slider over. When I say OK, that makes that nice little section. We'll edit that in a second. Now I can do the same thing here, but you can see I'm going to get a whole lot more, and we're going to go ahead and edit that. So let's go ahead and say OK. And what I have are these two sections connected. So what I'm going to do is come up here. I'm going to zoom in right here, and when you use any of your tools, remember to press escape to turn them off. And I've got this section created, but I'm going to go into one of my editing views called outline view. So there's outline view, And I'm going to use one of the tools that makes this adjust really, really quickly. When you're shaded like this, because we've selected the section we want to edit, you right click to get to the menu, or you can go to the outline menu from your main menu bar. But what I want to do is adjust with the line. And what I'm telling it is from here, and I just come over on the outline and place a left click and I get a little green node, to here, and you can see there's my second left click with another green node. I want this to be straight, which means that all of this section right here, if you see I mouse over it, it turns bright blue, needs to become a straight line. So I'm going to left click on it and it becomes a very straight line. That's all I have to do is place a left click where I want to start, a left click where I want to end. To get to the next sections, I'm going to right click to select the area that I want. I'm in View Outline, and then I'm going to go ahead and select View Edit, and that's going to give me the option of moving these nodes and putting them into a better position so that they are, a little more overlapped, or at least closer to the outline of that star. That way I know I have no gapping. You can see here I'm just moving, using the slider bar, that little button on the side, or the scroll wheel on my mouse, and I'm just moving up a little bit and moving those nodes into place. Now here, I'm going to go ahead and move this node, and I have this funny curve, so I just right click my mouse in between those 2 points and drag that curve a little better. And here, I'm just right clicking on that center line and dragging it closer. Now if you look at some of these points, they're not very good. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click on some of these points here and delete them. And then I can begin to curve that a little bit better by just right clicking on that segment of the line and dragging. Right click and hold your right mouse button and drag it into place. And the more nodes I delete sometimes, the easier it is to, get this better curve, because more nodes don't necessarily mean a better curve. Now if I delete something I need, I just right click, or I'm sorry, I just go up to the undo button. Okay, so now we're going to go back to one-on-one view and take a look what's going on. And to do that, I'm just going to go ahead and right click off to the side. And I can generate here if I want to, or I can just right click and I'm still in edit mode and go in and select the things I want. Right now I've selected the 2 segments that we just edited, those 2 yellow pieces, and I want to make sure that they're set to satin. Now I'm going to zoom in and take a look at what this satin looks like. Make sure it's what I want. You can see that for the most part it is, but I might want to make some adjustments. So I'm going to go into View, Angle, and that's going to give me these angle lines. And you can see, my angle lines are a little bit off. So I'm going to correct these so I get a better flow to the satin. And to do that, I'm just going to, make sure that those 2 pieces are selected. I'm in View Angle mode. And I'm going to come over and left click on one of those little green nodes, or I can just left click right on the bar, in between them to select it. And I just hold my left mouse button over one of those nodes and I just move the node to a better position. Okay, now I've got a little bit better stitching there, and I can do that for all of those. I have that one section that, at the top there that I might want to correct, but now there's a faster way to do that. There's a faster way to make these things. We can use manual punch tools, and you can see I just went over to my little circle tool on my Create toolbar, and I just made a quick little circle because I'm not going to worry about making these perfect circles with manual punch other than using a shape. These are circles. They should be a little bit larger, and once I have one circle I can just copy and paste them and drag them to where I want them to go by left click and holding your mouse button down and just dragging into position. You can see I've got 3 of them on the screen right now, and they're blue, and these are going to be my yellow ones. So what I can do is I can change all of this yellow color to 1 by simply left clicking on the color square I want and then right clicking on one of the yellow colors, and that way I know all of my yellows are exactly the same color. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and set my stitching order. So I go to Accessories and set stitching order, because yellow is going to be the base that I use, although I may stitch these in a different order. So once I go to Accessories and select that, I just mouse over and press 1 or I mean, I'm sorry, left click on the piece I want. And if I make a mistake, I press backspace. So you can see I pressed, one a couple of times and thought, no, no, and I press the backspace key and I come back and I'm just going 1, 2, 3, and then 4 as I left click on each one of these items to set my sewing order. Then I just press enter. And then I'm just going to generate and let the program put the trims in and recalculate in and out points. So I have this first layer of yellow done, and I've got a couple of different options that might work better on some of these other pieces. So we're going to take a look at how to do this better using a manual punch tool. So here is, our design so far. Now, just because I have yellow in the letters, that does not mean I'm going to stitch them at this point. I'm going to finish that star section first and then move on to the lettering after, because it's at the bottom. I don't want to jump. I want to kind of work from the center out. So let's zoom in on this star section, and I'm going to use one of the other punching tools in the program. I'm also going to take a look at working in view outline so I can see what's going on with this. So I have gone to view outline or outline view, and now I can see what I need to do. Like that pink ribbon goes over top. Working in outline view, really does let me see what's underneath, and there's a setting that we'll talk about maybe in another video to keep myself in outline view, which sometimes is easier to work in, but we'll cover that later. Right now we're going to take a look at what do we need to do and what's a logical thing to do with this design. I could do the purple section, I could do the blue section. I've got like that orangish reddish section too, so I'm going to go ahead and just do the purple section, although truly I would probably do the red, but I want to show you how to use some of these other tools. When I am creating something, I can let the program do it with that magic wand, or I can use the punching tools, which are sometimes faster. So we're going to go ahead and take a look at how to create this a little bit quicker. We're going to use this create toolbar I just pulled over. And if you go to where you have, the stitching inputs starting below that scanner, the first one is satin side to side. We're going to use the next one down called satin side by side. And this little box opens up, and I'm going to go ahead and just click on that color chip and then click on the little dots next to it and change that color to purple from my Windows palette. Now to create satin side to or side by side, I begin at one top section and place a left click, and then I just right click down the curves. I don't need a lot, I only need a couple. And when I'm done, I press enter and come back and I do the second side, and then I press enter again. Then I come back and I left click and hold my mouse button down and drag these lines across to tell it what direction I want these stitches to go. Then I press enter again and it's created very quickly. It's maybe a little bit better sometimes to use this tool when you can, because you've got some things going on here that require editing, like the shape and everything else. So let's do that second section same way. Left click on that first point and right click around the curve on one side, press enter. Come back to the other side, left click at the same end you started on, right click down it and left click at the end and press enter. Then go up and left click and drag these direction lines across and press enter, and that area is created for you. And you can see that was maybe a little bit faster than some of the editing we had to do. And you can do that for all of the sections in this design that have these ribbons. It's going to give you a little more control here. Okay, so I'm still in the tool. I haven't left that tool yet because I haven't pressed escape. You can see the property box is open. So I have to press escape to get out of that. And if I want to stay in it, I could just stay in it and change the color. But we'll go ahead and we'll make another area, and I'm going to go ahead and we'll change this to a little bit lighter blue, and we'll work on this blue section. Same thing, left click on the end that I want to start at, right click and then left click to end it and press enter. Go back to the side you started on, same thing, make that second side, drag your lines, left click and hold that left mouse button down and drag those direction lines across. If it won't let you make a line, don't worry, just move back a little bit. And I've got something a little bit funny here that I might want to take a look at. So I'll go into my view angle, and you can see I've got just that one little point that it just doesn't like. And I'm just gonna left click on that and just drag that point, or left click and delete it and drag it to a better direction. You can see the change there, what a difference that makes just by correcting that one stitch direction. And I'm in this tool and I can continue to go and make the rest of this if I want to. And there we go, I'm in this tool. Left click at this at one end, right click around to make these curves. If you make a mistake, you can backspace. And I'm going to come down here, left click at the end, press enter. Come back to where I started, left click, and then right click around these curves again. And when I get down to the end, you can see I'm overlapping a little bit because satin's going to pull and push, and I want to make sure that I have that covered well. Press enter and then come back and make these stitch direction guidelines again. And that's just holding your left mouse button down and dragging those directions over that you want, and press enter. And I forgot to change my color there, but no big deal. I can just come over to my film strip and see that light blue, and then there's the dark blue. I can just remove the rainbow there. And here, if I'm a little bit off, no big deal. I go to view outline, and I can just start deleting some of these points. See, I'm deleting those curves, and because they were all made with curves, it's real easy. And then I just drag that point down to match a little bit better. And if I weren't rushing, that would have probably been a little more accurate and stuff. But press generate. Now let's go over and remove that little rainbow in between the two and make it the same blue color. And there we go. You can see on the film strip that little rainbow. Just click on it to remove the color stop. Okay, now I'm back in view outline, and it's going to be the same thing. Like, I'm going to take these little circles and I'm going to copy and paste them and put them in place. And those little diamonds I can just make real quick with either a square and turn it on its side. I can do a lot of different things here. So I have a lot of options on how to make that center section, and sometimes the automatic isn't the best when you have really not a very good design. Okay, so there's my little dot I just made, copied and pasted, and changed it to the color purple. Now I'm dragging it back up to the purple section and just kind of putting those in order. So that's how I would finish that top section, get those ribbons done. We still have to worry about how to deal with that pink ribbon because it goes over top, and I don't really want a lot of over top stitching. So I'm right clicking on the star. I'm going into view outline so I can see what's going on. And I'm going to go back and just use that same tool, satin side by side, and I'm going to make this pink ribbon. You can see I left clicked at the top and I'm right clicking around these curves, and I'm just going straight through here. When I get up to here, I'm going to overlap a little bit and press enter and make that first side. Then I'm going to come back over and go back to the top of that first section and make the second side. And when I get to here this time, I've got to press enter. So I'm going to have a little funny stuff going on there that I have to deal with at the end. And press, there's my mouse. I just press enter. And I'm not making that whole ribbon because I don't need all of it, but there's my direction lines. And this at the top where it won't let me make that direction line is going to give me a little problem. But no big deal. Now you can see if I would have punched a little bit neater, that would have been better. So let's go ahead and change this. We'll just change it to pink for right now. So there's my pink ribbon. Now let's take a look at what we've got going on. And you can see there's that little funny section I was telling you about. Go to view angle right next to view outline and see that one point that I just clicked on. Just pull it up. And you're going to get that nice, clean, crisp look there. Now I still have a problem because the stars underneath all of this, so we're going to use our view outline tool, go to edit mode, the one with the little nodes on it, and I'm going to use the menu, or I'm going to right click, there's my menu, or I can right click on that star and say create a void by drawing freely. The reason I don't want to create a void with an existing area is satin is going to pull. So I want to make sure that I give myself a little bit of room, and I'm just going to treat this like I'm manually punching or drawing a shape. And you can see I'm slightly inside of that ribbon there. Okay, and I'm leaving that little overhang so that the star becomes one piece still, and I can keep that direction better. So I'm just left clicking when it's, squared point at the top, and right clicking to make the curve. And then I just press enter. Now I've got a hole underneath there, so let's go take a look. There's my hole. But I also have overlap, and these star sections are connected. I just change the direction that I want and press generate or go. And there we go. I've got the star that's one piece, so it's easily controlled. I've got this hole dug out. I just have to worry about maybe that little edge. If it's a problem, you can, dig that all the way out. But, now I've got this the way I need it. And, I've got that overlap section created. I just right click off to the side, and then I'm going to hit go and just regenerate everything when I'm all done making these pieces, or periodically as I go along. Don't forget to save as you do some things, or, save right before you do something major, and then at least if something happens, you've got your design. So now I can still use the color, pick tool, the auto trace magic wand, and use those tolerance boxes to get these two body shapes down here. They're not complicated. I may edit around the head if I want to using those little node edits, but depending on what size you're going to make this, I'm not really sure that you really need to. And remember, there's some compensation that's showing in these, two body parts. Now, if I don't want to make a second one, or if I've edited this first one, then don't use a magic wand. Use your copy, paste, and mirror option to just create the second body shape. And that's how you make this design.